Okay, here's the start of the Christmas tree collar. This is version 2. All right, so I've got my stakes in here. I'm kind of evenly spaced for the most part. I'm just going to check them and make sure. And then what I'm going to do to make them hold while I'm doing the weave is I'm going to spray them. And what that does is it makes your stakes swell up a little bit, and then they hold a little better as you twine in them. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is twine our base. Now, if you've got a long piece, which I don't, you could take these and bend it over and then start the twine, but since I have 2 shorter pieces, I'm going to put them behind 2 consecutive stakes. All right, so this is twining. Twining is with 2 weavers, and you take, I am right-handed, so I weave in a clockwise motion. And I'm going to take the weaver that's farthest away from the direction that I'm weaving, so the one all the way to the left, I'm going to go in front of one, behind one. And I'm going to do this for about 3 rows. All the way around, making sure it stays nice and tight. Okay, so I've gone around it 3 times. You see that there's a couple times that I dogtailed that because the pieces weren't big enough. And I'm gonna lock this in, but I always check to make sure that I've got the 3 on each row. And if I locked it in there, then you'd see that I wouldn't have 3. So I'm going to take 1 more stroke, and then I'm going to trim these up. I'm going to lift up this one. And slip that underneath there, and then I'm going to come to the next stake, lift up that one, and stick it underneath there. Okay, so that base is now locked in. Okay, so we're starting the base, and what we've done is we've got an even amount of stakes, and we want it to be odd, so I took one of them and cut them, and it's just easier to go round and round instead of doing start and stop, but you have to have an odd number for that to happen. So the other thing that you need to do when you start is taper it. So I made that pretty thin for about 5 stakes. Okay, and I'm going to bring this out to about maybe 14 inches, and then I'm going to start doing the sides, and it'll be a little bit different on the sides. All right, so this is about 14 inches wide. And this, if you look back here, is where I started. So that's where I want to taper back to. So it starts about here, and it ends about there. So I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to taper it back. And the reason that you do this is because you don't want one side to be heavier than the other side. So if you start it that way, you need to finish it that way. Okay? Top of the Christmas tree collar. So there's our top of the Christmas tree collar. Okay, so we kind of want to put an ending to the collar. Notice it's coming up a little bit. So what I'm going to do before I upset is I'm just going to do a 3 broad rand or a triple twine. So when you triple twine it, it's the same as twining, except of course now you got 3, but you're still using the weaver that's all the way to the left to make the stroke. In front of 2, behind 1. In front of 2, behind 1, all the way around. Okay, so I'm gonna flip my design over now. Now I'm gonna upset those stakes. You're now looking at the inside of the basket, or inside of the collar. Okay, so make sure they're good and wet, and I'm gonna bend them over. All the way around. Okay, so I've started on my sides. I've upset them. And I started back here. And actually what I did is I went ahead and started with this just blunt and moved around a couple times. This is chase weave I'm going to talk to you about in a second. Then I went back through and I pulled this out after I've had about 2 or 3 rows and I tapered it. Just it looks a little bit nicer than just that blunt cut starting out. So the reason that we can do a chase weave is because we have an even a number of stakes. So remember that we took that 1 here and we cut it in half so we could do continuous weave here. Well, now we've decided, okay, that's actually a single again, even though it's cut. I'm treating it as a 1 that I cut, and I'll keep pushing those together. Okay, so you start out with your natural weaver. Okay, and right now I'm at the end of mine, so I'm going to pick up a new weaver here and get it wet. And I am a lap weaver. If it works for you sitting on the table, that's great too. But for whatever reason, it just works better for me in my lap. So that's why the change of the direction of the camera. Okay, so I'm going to come back forward to start this. I always want to start and stop on top of a stake. It's common to think, oh yeah, I want it to hide, so I want it behind a stake. No, you don't. You want it on top of the stake, and here's why. Because you count back 4. You put that underneath this one. And this will be on top of this, and then you don't see the beginning or the end. Okay, and away we go. So remember I said we're doing a chase weave. This is just over and under. It's a plain weave. And I'm on top of that green, and you'll see why we're doing that here pretty soon. I'm looking at my shaping. I want this to flare out. So I don't want it to be a straight up and down basket. And then I'm going to come to a point where I catch up with Mr. Green here. Mr. Green jeans, which means I have to stop with a white weaver and start with a green weaver, because 1 leads and 1 chases. In this scenario, the green's going to be our lead dog, if you will, and the white is going to be the chaser. All right. So I'm just going to keep on with this process, making sure that my flare is coming out the way I want it, and the way to tell that is to put it in your lap or on the table and check it. Make sure you can put out a little bit as you go. It's harder to do once it's done. So do a couple rows and then sit it on the table and check it and make sure that you're getting the flare that you want. See, I've caught up Mr. Green jeans here. It's caught up with the white, so now he's going to be the lead dog, and he'll be the chaser. and you just keep going. Okay, so we've got our rows done, and now what we're gonna do, it's getting a little gappy, so we're gonna cut these guys all in half. Start at the top, and we're just gonna cut them right down to there, all the way around. Okay, so we've split all of our stakes, and now we're going to twine for one row with 3 weavers. So remember, when you're twining, and sometimes you got to kind of bring those out a little bit, you're always making the twine with the row that's, or with the weaver that's farthest to your left. Okay, and I'm going to open those up just a little bit as we go around here, one time all the way around, and then we are going to do some twill on the bottom of this. And then I'm going to show you how to make the feather trees. Okay, this is how it's looking.